Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme: Leigh Griffiths is a doubt for Saturday's match against Rangers with a hamstring problem. Mark Warburton, the Rangers boss, says he'll be out of a job if he has to wait 2 or 3 years to deliver success. And Motherwell boss Mark McGee reckons he has a stronger squad since the international break, and that's despite losing Marvin Johnson. Just a few of the topics we'll be discussing on tonight's programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our boot-room guest is Hugh MacDonald, and we'll also have an exclusive interview with Charlie Mulgrew, who's now at Blackburn Rovers. He was with Celtic in the summer and decided to join Owen Coyle at Ewood Park, and he gives us his take on life with Blackburn and the Old Firm showdown. So we'll hear from Charlie Mulgrew very shortly. Let's cut to the chase. Ruffy Griffiths, he's going to have a scan on the hamstring. He did train over the last week, but today missing from training.
Yeah, again, I think the Celtic supporters will be hoping it's not as bad as what it is. We've saw what he can do. He's a main player for them. I think they'll be hoping it's not as bad as what it is. Sometimes there's a wee bit of kidology goes on when these games come up. You know, if you let the opposition believe that your main player isn't going to be fit, and then lo and behold, when Saturday comes, he's in the team lines, you know, it can just give everybody that lift. But again, the people in the know will know how bad it is. We're just looking at it from the outside, but he will, if he's not playing, be sadly missed. Yeah,
and it's great to have the fixture back, Hugh, because that's what we love. We love being hoodwinked.
Oh, I mean, there's all the hullabaloo this week about it. I mean, there's old men walking down Sucky Hall Street have been grabbed and interviewed because they might have seen a Celtic Rangers game or played with, or their brother has been a player. I mean, the hullabaloo up to it is colossal, and it's still got some way to go. I think there'll be substance in the Griffiths thing because I know he was desperate to go with Scotland, and I know he was desperate to play with Scotland. So there's obviously a real issue there. As Alan says, how serious it is, nobody knows except the guys inside Celtic. I think he's crucial to what Celtic do. I think, though, that Celtic have options if they don't play. I mean, they can play Dumbelli, of course, through the middle, but they could also play Sinclair through the middle.
Yeah, well, Brendan Rodgers has mentioned and emphasised this week, Ruffy, that with the players coming back off international duty, he wanted to go back over what he called a refresher course of what they've been working on for the last few months. But it's positivity, it's attack.
Yeah, I mean, you just see the style of Celtic's play now, the two wide guys, whether it's Forrest or Roberts or Sinclair on the other side. It's about getting the ball to them as quickly as possible and then using their pace to run. You know, you could call it counter-attack, but it's counter-attack with pace. And they've all got the pace, as we've saw, that can trouble any team. And that's the main asset, you know. But from our neutral point of view, we're looking at defences. We're looking at both defences are liable to throw a goal in here or there. So for me, it remains to be seen which of the two defences are the tightest, because I think there will be goals.
Yep, and congratulations to Brendan Rodgers. He picks up Manager of the Month.
Yeah, and I think really a no-brainer. I mean, he's just started so well. People forget how, you know, tough on paper that was at the start. I mean, you're facing the second and third and fourth teams of last season, 2 of them away from home, taking 9 points from that, scoring goals, you know, scoring good goals, exciting play. Yeah, I think a no-brainer for Manager of the Month.
Yeah, well, the Celtic manager did have an option to re-sign Charlie Mulgrew, but in the end, I think the former Celtic defender come midfielder didn't want to wait and hang around and be kept right up until the last minute before knowing what his future was. So he decided to head down to Blackburn Rovers. I asked him the obvious question, why?
It came up in the last few days of the window. I'd heard a couple of rumours going back to last January when Paul Lambert was the manager, and it always excited me the thought of coming down here and with a new challenge. And looking back at Blackburn in the 90s, how big a club it is and how well it's supported and how much success it's had, it really excited me.
Did it take much for Owen to convince you?
No, as I said, I looked at Blackburn years ago when they won the title, and it was always a big club in England that you looked down, and when you used to watch the TV when you were younger, it was one of the clubs that you always looked towards at their success and stuff. And the thought of coming here was very exciting. To speak to Owen Coyle helped as well. Very positive about the future, and that's excited me.
How close were you to maybe re-signing for Celtic?
It was pretty close. We had some discussions, but they never kind of went much further than that. And when it came down to it in the end, I had to look elsewhere and look to get something sorted. And to be honest, in the back of my mind, there was always something there that this was probably my last chance to have a new challenge and do something exciting. So this has excited me. I'm looking forward to being here, being at Blackburn, and I can't wait to get started.
Suddenly the whole of Glasgow is about to go mad again with an Old Firm game looming on the horizon.
They were great games to be involved in, and all the players are delighted to have that game back. It's a huge game, and Celtic are huge favourites again. But as you know, anything can happen in Old Firm games, and sometimes it suits you to go in there as underdog because there's not a lot of expectation, and it's dangerous to go in there as favourites. It's
almost like a role reversal. Celtic can outspend Rangers these days, and they are favourites, but that counts for nothing.
Definitely. I mean, I remember going there in January the 2nd before, and nobody gave us a prayer at Ibrox. Everybody says Rangers will win easily and stuff, and we won 2-0. Big Sammy scored 2, and I remember going into that game, and everybody had the sense that we were underdogs and nobody expected anything. And as I say, when you go in with that mentality, sometimes it takes the pressure off you. So it's dangerous to go in as big favourites, and as we went in big favourites last year and things didn't go our way. So when you've got players like Joey Barton and like Lee Wallace that's been there before, and players that are winners, it makes it difficult. So Celtic have got to be at the top of their game, and hopefully we can come on top.
Looking at the two teams, give us your prediction and why.
I think it's hard to see past Celtic. Just the quality they have. I think like Sinclair, a couple of bits of signings that will just make the difference. I think the quality's there. The last match we played against Rangers, they were very organised. They played well. They played football, and I think that was maybe what was missing for us, the organisation and a clear message. And Celtic have that now in the manager, Brendan Rodgers. So I think that'll just be the difference. I think 2-0 I'll say Celtic, because just a bit more quality will come through in the end.
Surprised actually they let him go, Hugh. He was one of the players, when you think about some of the other players that will just basically be taking a wage, I think he could have offered something in 2 or 3 different positions.
I think so too, but I wasn't so surprised he went because, Charlie was on a good deal, because remember, he won Player of the Year just about the time where his deal had to be negotiated, so I think he'd probably be in a good deal. And again, if he's on a good deal, he's probably not wanting to renegotiate it much down. That's fair enough. The Championship will offer him decent money, so yeah. But as you say, they'll miss his versatility. I think he was always strong for Celtic and versatile. Yeah,
there's more to come on that Charlie Mulgrew interview later on this week. But of course, he did indeed mention he's at Blackburn, got to get in the team, wants to play for Scotland, definitely wants to be involved in this campaign.
Yeah, and he'll have to be playing first team football. And as both of you touched on there, he's the kind of player every team needs. There's not very many players going about there now that you could play in 4 positions without even batting an eyelid. If some of the centre halves out, play him there, full backs, play him there, midfield, play him here. If you went to a push, you probably could play up front as well. Not that he has, but he's that kind of player that the managers see are very, very valuable. And I'm sure if push had came to shove and he'd been offered the right money, he'd have stayed.
Yeah, I think Gordon Strachan will have him back in that starting lineup for me anyway. Hugh, I don't know about yourself.
I think so, and I'll tell you another thing. The interesting thing about him now is we talked about his versatility, but at Celtic I think he was getting crowded out at left back because of Tierney, and they have got a backup to Tierney and Eziguia. He's not a Brendan Rodgers midfield player. I don't think he's got the mobility for Brendan Rodgers midfield, but I think he's a strong centre half, Charlie, and I think where Scotland are really weak in the centre defence, I would have no problem having him in the centre of the Scotland defence.
Yeah, it's funny. I had an argument about that with him, but he put up a strong defence on the qualities of Hanley and Martin, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we are hypercritical, these guys. These guys, I mean, everybody says, oh, Hanley, you know, I would say, oh, you know, be quite critical of Hanley. But Newcastle are bottom in the Championship. So Rafa Benitez thinks he's okay.
Well, if that's Hugh saying if Rafa thinks he's okay, then he's okay. We're going to talk more. We're going to talk Motherwell, Hearts and Hibs after the break. Join us if you can. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff and our bookroom guest Hugh MacDonald with me here in the studio. Mark Warburton said today ahead of the big game on Saturday that if he's going to have to wait 2 or 3 years, as Ali McCoy suggested, to deliver the success the Rangers fans crave, he'll be out of a job.
He very probably will be. That's the reality, the harsh imperative of life at Ibrox. I mean, I think from the beginning of the season, there's been, you know, great pressure on what's happened with Rangers. A lot of people thought Rangers supporters were putting up the thing that they could be coming to Celtic for 3 points clear in the league. You know, okay, Celtic having a game in hand, but that's the way we're looking at it. The 4 fixtures they felt were all winnable. They haven't got that. Reality's biting a wee bit. And I think, you know, I've been slightly surprised at Rangers' slowness in the uptake in the SPFL Premiership, because what people forget is they've got the second biggest budget, so they should be by far the second best team at least.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree with Ali McCoist on this one, Ruffy, on the basis that you're looking at a team that's, first of all, come up. There's not a huge amount of money at their disposal to pay big wages and to build a big squad. So he's had to duck and dive, and he's had to buy players that cannot be squad players. He's had to buy players in the window that have to go in and hit the ground running in this division. I think it's a gradual build rather than sending Rangers right back down a road they don't want to get down.
Yeah, I think it is a gradual build to get back to where they really were, you know, qualifying for Champions League. But I think he'll be sitting there going, I need to have a target at the end of this year, you know, and you look at it and the resources that they have got. I think the disappointment of losing the cup against Hibs will be in his mind, you know, of how disappointing that is. But you look at what's ahead, you know, there's cup games that they should be capable of going, having a good run. Should be capable of getting in the top 4. Top 4 means Europe. You know, that could be a priority, and that would be seen, I think, from supporters' point of view as a success, you know, gradually getting back in there. And I know I don't think that Rangers will win the league, but certainly for me, if I was the manager, I'd be looking at Europe at just a wee tip of this is where we're going, guys. Just hang on in there until we get the money that we need to go further.
They should be doing better under the budget, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I think it's unrealistic to expect them to strongly challenge Celtic for the league, but they should be beating Hamilton at home and Kilmarnock away.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got players in the team, you know, individual players in the team who will be earning twice, maybe 3 times what the starting 11 of the team they're playing against is playing. I know that's not, you know, everything.
No, but
it is indicative.
If Rangers had the same squad that they've got now, beg your pardon, in last season's race, I would expect them to be challenging Celtic and Aberdeen and Hearts because of that gap that was, for me, diminished because of the Celtic manager who wasn't up to the job. Now I think there's that gap because of the spending power, and I think this is a better manager, a well-organised manager. Listening to Charlie Mulgrew there talking about the fact that it's a manager who has a plan that the players are responding to. I
hate moments like this on this show. I really detest them because I'm actually now going to say, you're right, Peter.
Yeah.
It has just ruined my evening.
Yeah, but well, say it.
You're right, Peter. That is. They're a better team. Celtic are a better team now, and they've got a much better manager. And they've got, you know, and looking forward to Saturday's game. they've got better players than Rangers. It's as simple as that.
I think it's going to be a great footballing spectacle, Ruffy. Just as we put it to bed, I think it's going to be a great footballing spectacle because of the fact that Mark Warburton wants to play football the right way. Brendan Rodgers' team want to play it the right way. The only thing I would suggest to you, having spoken to a number of Rangers fans, is they still think there are bits of the jigsaw that are wobbly. They're not happy with them.
Yeah, and again we go back to the defences. I think every game that Rangers has played in, you know, after the game somebody said something about the central defence, that they've done something about that. Now let's see, the boys get bags of quality. Senderos, he might be the one that just stabilises it. But I think if you ask any player who goes into a Rangers Celtic game, it doesn't matter who's on top for them. There's certain things can happen on the day. We saw a certain scenario one game, I think it was Ibrox, the goalkeeper gets sent off when Rangers were favourites. And then you're up against it. It all depends for me what pans out on the day. If you get a wee rub of the green here or there, there's no doubt in my mind that Celtic possibly are the better side. But they've got to go out and prove it. They've now got players there who have got to go out under the pressure of a Rangers Celtic game and prove that they are better.
I'll tell you, there are other games which I think are worthy of a mention, of course, as well. We're talking about clubs that can come up from the Championship and hit the ground running and do well. Hearts, Robbie Nielsen delighted he's got players back that are not injured from international duty. They're going for their third straight win, Hugh, at home to Hamilton. Who would bet against them?
I wouldn't. I think they'll beat Hamilton, and I think I was amazed at the early criticism of the Hearts where they played in a real stonking good match against Celtic, just got beaten, and then they drew at Pittodrie, and everybody's going, oh, Hearts this and Hearts that. I mean, I think Nielsen, really harsh on Nielsen. I think his squad's improved from last year. I think Tony Watt's a great addition, and I expect him to beat Hamilton.
And another manager who was speaking today ahead of the weekend's game was Mark McGee. Interestingly enough, with his recruits, Ruffy, he reckons they are a stronger squad since the international break. That's despite losing Marvin Johnson. Do you agree with that?
To a certain extent, but I think the proof will be in the pudding when he plays games. You know, I think if you really got Mark himself, he'll be disappointed. You know, losing a player of that quality. I think every time Mark goes on the telly, he talks about the budget that he's working under, and quite rightly so. It's not as big as the other teams that he's supposed to challenge. So I think the players that he brings in are a test of his knowledge of the game, and certainly most of the players he's brought in have been a success. So he'll have to keep continuing to do that.
Okay, I'm going to switch my attention to a story that I picked up in the Edinburgh papers today, and I thought it was a fantastic story which deserves a mention because Hibs have won the Scottish Cup and they take it around various places, schools. You know, I just think it's fantastic. Darren McGregor, a shining example to any youngster. You know, I was a fan of the club, I got a chance to play for the club, and would you believe it, I also become part of the legend of this club, having played in a Scottish Cup winning side.
Yep. And is one of these guys in football that you're really pleased for him, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because he's a good guy. He's actually a good guy. I always remember having a press conference when he was in a Rangers team that was heavily beaten by Hibs. And the press conference was just brilliant in its honesty, talking about the knot in the stomach, not being able to sleep. You know, obviously, you know, sorry for the fans. You know, are just a good guy, but a great story. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Take the cup around, let the kids have a look at it.
Yeah, I was just wondering when they decided which players would do which district, who got the Tynecastle schools. Take it out because if you're a player getting up that street, you might not come back.
With all due respect, Ruffy, I think, and I hope I'm not tempted to, I think Leanne Dempster would have sat down and said, OK, we'll cherry pick these safe ones first of all. But you're right, Darren McGregor and most of the players, you know, will just revel in it. I think for kids, if you want legacy, that's the way to do it. That's, you know, how to inspire. Here's what we did. Your old dad, your old granddad never got to see this. You can touch it and get a photograph. Well done to them. Just before we go, guys, European Football Federation certainly not happy with this whole UEFA business of trying to pacify and pander to the rich clubs. They are going to reject this proposal. So there's a real battle going on, I think, now from clubs who weren't properly you know, included in this conversation, and they're not happy that it's about the rich and the poor.
And the trouble is, there's a golden rule here, and the golden rule is them that has the gold will make the rules. And if the big clubs don't, this was set as a halfway house to appease the big clubs. And see if the big clubs don't get this, this is what they were settling for. They'll go for the real big money. there's a possibility of a real breakaway here.
Ruffy, I'm not a fan of Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and any of the other figureheads who are driven by greed. But listen, you know, we have, you know, in our own midst clubs who are run as businesses and they want to try and maximise their business. So you can understand why, but it's to the detriment, I think, of a lot of clubs who want to be able to play in Europe, want to play the big clubs, want to have dreams.
Yeah, I think it's good that the smaller clubs are getting together. I know I agree with Hugh that they don't have the same power as the big clubs, but I mean, Bayern are just looking after their own self-interest. That's what it's about. They don't want to get left behind Real Madrid, Barcelona and the likes. They want to be up there. And as Hugh says, it's who's pulling the strings, who's got the most money.
And there's the possibility of an independent Champions League, independent of UEFA or any FIFA thing. The Chinese businessmen have put, in the last year, Chinese businessmen have put £2 billion into European clubs.
Yeah. That tells you everything. Okay, as you can tell, we are romanticists on this programme. We want everybody to have a chance. Some would suggest we are dreamers, but just ask Darren McGregor about what happens when you dream of winning. It can happen. Thanks for watching. Good night.